Yeah, I can see that people are joining in. Hello, everyone. This is Mani Karthik here. Welcome to the webinar. We're just getting started, so we'll give a few moments for everyone to just come in. We have a few panelists joined in already. We're also expecting a few more too in the moments coming up. But we need a few minutes just to make sure that everything is taken care of. This webinar is also being recorded, so no worries if you're not able to join, but we're expecting close to 150 of our registrants to show up. So it's going to be a full house today. I hope everyone can hear me, right? Great, awesome. Yeah, we have about 38 so far. I can see people are joining in. We've just posted in our Facebook and WhatsApp groups that we're live, so all of them also should be joining in. We're planning this for an hour, but the structure we're following here is very conversational. So I would also urge all of you to keep your questions ready so that you can post them in the Q&A session, in the Q&A box. And we'll be picking up questions from there. Me and the panelists together will be addressing some of the best ones out there. But so we have 41 people here. Just to set the tone here, so back to India, this whole project was started back in 2017 as I returned from the US, but essentially it's been a community effort ever since then, and it's been growing organically. Today we have about close to 10,000 members altogether from our different WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and Telegram group as well. Just for those of you who have joined us recently, just to give you some perspective, we have about WhatsApp groups for every major city in India, like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, as well as for the US as well. And we've had like 2 meetups, physical meetups. This is pre-Corona times, basically, in 2019 that we did. One was in Hyderabad, another one was in Bangalore. We're also planning to do more. And Akash is saying that I'm unable to hear anything. Is that the case with everyone else, or is it just Akash? Can you give me a thumbs up, everyone, if you can hear me?
Yeah, we are able to hear you.
Great, awesome. All right, so I can see that more of our panelists are joining us. So we have with us Sovid Jain, Sudhir Bandaru, Inderjeet Khurana, and Karthik. We'll be doing a round of introductions with all of our panelists, and we'll be taking questions, and each of them will be contributing their part, sharing their experiences in certain topics. Yes, I'm just waiting for everyone to join in, and I'm just hoping that there will be at least 100 folks. Someone is messaging me on WhatsApp, and this is what always happens, right? There's messages coming from every, okay, there, hold on a second, okay, cool. Great, so yeah, so we have a few topics lined up today, starting from personal finance to your generic checklist that you need to follow if you're decided and made up your mind moving back to India. Some of them are very tactical because we have taken the feedback from our community. Most of the time, a lot of people have the same questions like, should I bring my TV back from the US to India? Should I withdraw the 401k? So even though this might sound repetitive, just for the sake of answering and clarifying them for the new members, we will be touching upon some of these topics. But it's like I mentioned, if you have more questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A box, and we'll be picking it up throughout the webinar and addressing it. Great. Let me share my screen here. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see.
Great. So yes, I think we're good to go. I think folks are going to come in throughout as we speak. But just to set off things, welcome everyone to the All Hands webinar with Back to India. This is our 4th webinar, technically speaking. We had 3 webinars previously done. The first one was on personal finance, conducted by Mr. Vikram Krishnamurthy. And the second one was by Prateek Dodia, again on personal finance. The third one was conducted by one of our recruiters from Uber from Amsterdam. So it was very insightful, the previous three webinars, and this is the fourth one. A few of them, like second and third one, were paid webinars, and this one is open to all. So in this one, basically what we're trying to do is set up a recurring, like, an ongoing series of webinars where we touching upon the most burning questions by aspiring attorneys and trying to help them with sharing my experience as well as panelists' experience and everyone else's experience, so that those who are having those burning questions feel safer and better moving in. And all of us are going through really bad times now, so I think it's really important for all of us to come together more than ever and huddle together and support each other. So that's the reason why we're having this webinar. So with that, let me introduce the panelists here. So we have with us Mr. Sovid Jain from Mumbai, Sudhir Bandaru from Hyderabad, Indrajit Khurana, Karthik, and Swaminathan as well. Some of you are very familiar in the groups, have been very active. So thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us today and being very active in the groups and contributing and sharing your experiences. Before getting into the topics, as you might have seen from one of my slides here, we have a few topics lined up. But before jumping into that, maybe we'll just do a quick round of introduction and go through and find out who are these faces here. So I wouldn't be the right person to do it. So over to you, Sudhir. If you don't mind, can you just unmuting yourself? Can you please introduce yourself and set the stage for us here?
Awesome. Firstly, thank you, Mani, for setting up this webinar, and most importantly, bringing all of the like-minded people who wants to come back to India through your community of R2I. It's been super helpful. When I started thinking about moving to India, the moment I went to US, probably 18 years back, and it took me like probably 15 years for me to decide about when to move. And like I finally moved 3 years back. I am here working as a Chief Technology Officer here at Shortlist. This is a company I joined as a founding member while I was in the US. And after 2 years, I moved here and set up the complete team and started everything from scratch. This is my 4th year running. No regrets, even a single day about the move. I will pass on to the next person in the panel, Mani.
Great. Thanks, Sudhir. You've always been a great support for the community, so thanks for being there. Sovid, if you want to take over, please, and give us an intro. You're on mute,
sure.
right?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Mani, thanks a lot, and Sudhir, thanks for your introduction. And hey, guys, everybody, my name is Sovid Jain, and I did my move last April. So I came back to India last April, and the whole thought process was going on in my head for almost a year. So I stayed in US almost 10 years before making a move. So almost I took a year worth of time to decide, make sure that I'm making a correct decision, going through all the blog, everything. And obviously Mani's blog was the one, and the whole community helped me a lot with making the final decision. So last April was when I made a move. So currently I'm employed here as a VP, Head of Engineering over here in one of the company name is Niyam. And it is a startup going to the mid-size level. So heading the engineering part over here. So now the why I did the reason why I moved over here. So the very reason which I think all of you would have been going through there is like your parents are over here in India, and every time, and all of your parents are in old age where they would be going through some kind of medical issues or some kind of issues, and that was also a constant battle which was going in my head. Like as sitting in US, I was financially very well, but I was not able to take care of them physically. So that was going through me continuously, and then I decided that let's take a hit, let's go back to India, because I am young at this point of time. I can take a pure hit, even if it is financially or even if in terms of career, doesn't matter. At least I want to stay with them. So that's where I decided and made a move completely. And to the point, like as Sudhir mentioned, even I do not regret a single day coming here. Reason is that if you have the point why you made a move, at least if you know the point and if you stick with that point, you will be well off. But if you're confused why you're coming, and if you have not thought over it properly, and you don't have a concrete decision, that's when you will have a tough time settling here and trying to convince your mind that you are doing a good job. So since for me it was all staying with my parents, and my parents do stay here with me in Mumbai, so obviously that point is well justified. And during this corona period, that is much more well justified, because they are staying with me. I'm taking care of all the grocery and everything, making sure that they only go out as needed basis for medical stuff, not more than that, or evening walk, not more than that. So all those are things which I'm taking care of. And over here, like during the last 1.5 years overstay, there will be little bit ups and downs, wherein like environmental thing, your little bit about the job culture, the how the people are working. So there may be little bit ups and downs, but if you try to ignore a couple of things and take the positive aspects, yeah, I think you will be always well to do. Yeah,
Got it. Got
that's
it.
it from my side. Cool, man.
Thanks, Ovid. Thanks, Ovid. I'm sure you have more to contribute, so we'll get into that somewhere in between. But moving on to Inderjeet. Inderjeet, if your audio is okay, if you want to unmute and take the stage and give us an intro, please.
Yeah, so I was living in the US for the past 10 years. I recently moved back to India in early September. I made a bold move of, I have two kids, one is 2 years old and the other one is 6 months old, and especially in these Corona times, I was like, this is it for me, because I always wanted to move back at some point of time. And, as it's pretty much what Soviet said, because it's like now or never. And the huge upside of moving back in, when you're young is you can start your life, you can start your life at any point of time, because A, you have money, B, you have energy. But as soon as, I mean, like as the time progresses, it's just like standing on the wet cement. It just gets, harder and harder and harder to, come back. It could be just because of the kids, and you've gotten used to that very lifestyle. So that's what my wife and I were discussing, that we should move back at some point of time. And then we realized that the time is now, because you know there will be something or the other, that we have to that will be hindering us from moving back. So we just decided and move back. And I was working as a telecom engineer back in the United States with a company called Comscope, and uh, my company was gracious enough to move my job back to back home in Delhi. I was all up to leave my job and find new opportunities over here. But they were like, okay, we can hire you back over there, so that's not a problem. So those little things are staying out for me. I'm still in the transition phase, so I might not be the correct person to give advice on certain things, because obviously, as so with David, he has spent some time, and other panelists have spent some considerable amount of time as compared to me. But yeah, that's what my take is. If you have to make a move while you're young. We can start our life. We can start our life easily. We have made a good life for us. We went to schools over there. We know how to skate the world. So yeah, this is the best time for every one of us to move back, because I assume everyone would be in their early 40s, early 30s or late 30s. So I'm guessing that's the age group we are actually who are actually in the group. So yeah, I would say this is the best time to just take a step back and
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Inderjeet. Thanks. Cool.
That's
So let's move on to sure. Swaminathan. Swami, if you can unmute yourself and give us an intro, please.
Hey everyone, yeah. So I think all of the panelists are India, right? I'm still in US. Okay, so I'm planning to move next year. So we decided actually, like in the January of 2020, like we were kind of discussing, and then right, like it was kind of a discussion topic. Like whenever friends are meeting, whenever myself and my wife are like alone talking about it, like it is always a discussion topic. So my main reason for moving is like, why not? Like we are keep talking about it, we are keep like discussing about it, we are always asking questions like what if this is not going to work out, what if this is like going to work out, and what if like the life is not going to be comfortable over there. Instead of keep on talking about it, why not actually go and try it out? Like if at least we try it out, we know that, right? Like without even trying out, like we will not know, right? Like how it is going to work out. And that's one reason. And like whatever the reasons you have, you guys were mentioning, like I have the same reasons. Like my parents are getting older, and then I want to spend more time with my siblings, like my brother and sister, and my kids wants to spend more time with their like cousins and sisters and with their relatives, and also like being working on the IT world and working on the technology stuff. Our work is going to get simpler and simpler in the future. If you see in another 5-10 years, the remote jobs, working from home and then working remotely, like you don't have to restrict yourself sitting in one country, right? I want to give my kids like exploring a lot of other cultures and other countries. Like I even after going to India, I don't want to like just be in India. Like I want to travel, and then I want to expose them to a lot of other cultures. And with all this cloud computing and all these things, like you don't have to like sit in home and work. You can go anywhere and then connect remote and work. So I want to explore all those options. And I came to US like as a single, and then got married. Now I like have like 2 sons, and they are like 4 and 8. And every 2 years, the something change, like something new actually happening in your life, right? Like getting married, getting kids, and getting a full-time job. So it makes your decision more and more complicated, like every 2 years. Even now, actually, if you see all these EB3 and EB2 dates actually moved further, like that is adding more complications in moving um, to our home country. So I don't want to like add more and more years of complication. And I don't want to think like after 10 years, I don't want to think like we should have moved like 10 years back. Like,
Got it.
like we are keep on thinking about it, but not doing anything. So I just want to do it. Like, let's go and see what is going to happen. That's the main motive for me.
Got it. Got it. Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Somnath. And you've been very active in our groups as well. So thanks for all the contributions. We have some questions lined up for you. Great insights. Okay, Karthik, do you want to go ahead with your intro, please?
Sure. I'll keep it short so that we can get to the question. So we moved recently, just before the pandemic. In fact, mine was probably the last flight that landed into Bangalore before the travel ban. So March 23rd was when I moved. I have been in the US for almost 10 years, and work-wise, I work for a small company called as Ugam Solutions, which is into the data and analytics space. I took a transfer directly from US to India. And we'll talk more about the questions once we get there.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Karthik. Kunal, if you're there, please do your intro here. I saw you.
Yeah, hi. My name is.
Disappeared.
Yeah. My name is Kunal. I moved to India way back in 2007. I was there for about 8 years. I finished my PhD there in about 2006. Worked in New York for about 3 months, and then my brother and I, both of us, sort of decided together to move back in. I wanted to get into education and actually wanted to get into the grassroots political level. So my brother and I, both of us, decided to move back here. So I've been here since 2007 now.
Great, awesome. Yeah, and Kunal is doing some amazing stuff in the rural parts of India that a lot of us can make example of. So we'll get into that later in the event. So I think that should be it. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining today. We have a lot of questions and discussions coming up, but essentially what I was trying to do was just create a list of items that we could share with those aspiring attorneys so that they could prepare well and make their move as easy as possible. And a lot of these questions are actually taken from our forum and community. Like I mentioned before, many of these are often repeated, so you might find them a little repeated and awkward, but just for the sake of clarity, we have them there. So one of the major things that people keep asking, or the most often repeated question I think in the community, is about personal finance, right? Right from what to do with your 401k, how to move your funds back to India, whether you should use your NRE account or not, or how to, and all these stuff. So I think it comes down to just four or five of these topics predominantly. And the way I see it, and I'm not an expert in all of these, and I'm expecting a lot of you to contribute here. One thing that we found is that a lot of folks keep the funds with themselves, before moving, and that's when they think about moving these funds, and then it becomes a little too late. Because I was surprised to see that many NRIs don't even have like an NRE account, which is, in my opinion, like a straightforward thing to have, right? Because only if you have an NRE account will you be able to move the funds back to India in a proper channel, because it's tax-free there. And if you have attended our previous personal finance webinar, you would understand that it's a must have. So it's sad that many aspiring returnees don't have an NRE account in the first place, and they look forward to it, or check it up only before moving, and then it's too late. But now there are banks who are trying to sort this issue, like for example Axis or HDFC, who have tie-ups with certain banks in the US who provide remote assistance. So if you wanted to create an NRE account, you can do so from the US. But it's kind of like a case-to-case basis, and depends on where you are located in the US, what is your profile and such. But it's a possibility. This is something that I've recently just gotten confirmation from two of the banks, HDFC and Axis Bank. Not all banks provide this, but for those of you who are trying to move back to India and have a lot of funds parked here or in the US, then you might want to consider having an NRE account. That's the first and foremost thing you should have. Good thing is that many of you have it, but for those of you who you might want to think about it. Do any of you have anything to add there about the NRE banking facilities, features, accounts, or are we on the same page there?
Yeah, hey Karthik, Ashish here. I know that even ICICI, they allow that from report you can open the NRE account, but I ran into issue that you need to have an approved I-797. Okay, unfortunately, I was not having that. Okay, I was having an H-1B pending.
Okay.
Okay. So even ICICI, they do have the option of applying for the account online.
Got it. Yeah, that's a valid point. Like I mentioned, many of the banks, they don't have a standardized process for this. Some of them are, they need a lot of documents, like including your I-797, your all your pay steps from the past 6 months from your employer, all the different, it's pretty much similar to what you would be required to have in India as well. But again, since they're doing this remotely, I think they're a lot more cautious to see who they're letting in. So I think that you can expect that a little bit, like, getting asked a lot of these documents for. So yeah, I agree on that. Great. So credit cards, this is again one of the questions that keep getting asked in the forums. And one of the things is whether you should close your credit cards. Indrajit, you had some insights there on how to manage your credit cards. Do you want to close them or keep them with you? How to manage the fees, etc. Did you want to just do a quick insight on it? Share your insight on it, please.
Sure. So basically, it depends on case-to-case basis. I'm kind of guy who has like some 20 US credit cards because I like to extract maximum amount of advantage from all of them. I would say, like, if it's a no-fee credit card, which will be which will be your first credit card, because for example, when you open a bank account, like in my case, I opened with Bank of America, and after a year, I got approved for a credit card, and I started to build my credit history. So that was my first credit card, and that was a no-fee credit card, which will be the case for the 90% of us. Do not close that. Do not close that, because that will affect your credit history. I know most of them, most of us are trying to come back to India, or we are already back in the, or already back in India. But at some point of time, like, if you have if your kids are US citizens, or you plan to migrate back, you would need your credit history. So to keep that alive.
I think we lost you there. Okay, so are you still there? Okay, I think we lost him. So basically what I learned from Inder is that, Inder, you're back. I think we lost you there.
Okay,
Can you please repeat what we
yeah.
just said a few moments back, please?
Hold on. Can you see me?
Okay, we lost him there. Can you try saying that again, Durjit? I think we lost you a few moments back.
So the thing is, what I wanted what I wanted to say say in a nutshell is, never ever close your first credit card, because for 90% of us that would be a no fee credit card. Because even if at some point of time you plan to migrate back to US, or visit over there or rent a car, you need a credit card. Or
Right.
because I am guessing a lot of us have kids who are US citizens, and if they plan to move over there, you would have to eventually move over there with them. So
Right.
at that very point of time, you would need your credit history. And your credit history, the very first thing that they look at is the depth of the credit history, which is like
Right.
the amount of time that you have a credit card approved. So that would be your first credit card. Never ever close that, because that would be a no fee credit card. And even if it's a no fee credit card, if they are charging like some $20 or $30, you can just call the bank and tell them to downgrade to a no fee credit card. Because what I mean, the maximum it will take is a closet space. And just to maintain, just to maintain that very credit card, I would highly recommend to just use it like once a year. Because if the credit card becomes inactive for 2 or 3 years, the bank will automatically send you a letter. They will not send you an email, they'll send you a letter that they're about to close this very credit card due to inactivity. So just keep a check on it. Just make a small purchase, like it can be a
Right.
$1 purchase, just to keep
Right.
it active. So
Right.
just to keep your credit history alive, keep your very first credit card open. And for all the and or for so if you have credit cards which have like high amount of fees, like 70-80 dollars or like $100, you can just call the bank and tell them to downgrade it to a no fee credit card. Because your credit score is basically defined as the amount of credit that you have approved, that you're approved of, and the amount of credit that you use from that. So it's
Okay.
the lower the ratio, the higher credit score grows. So for
Got it.
example, if you have like four different credit cards, each has a limit of 10,000 each. So you have a credit limit of 40,000, and you just use 1,000 worth of 1,000 worth of that very credit limit out of that 40,000. So obviously the ratio would be 1/40. So your score will automatically go up. For some of the persons who have just one credit card, and the credit limit is like $5,000, and you spend like some $2,000 on it on a monthly basis. So that is like maximizing 60% of your credit limit. Sorry, 40% of your credit limit. So
Right.
obviously your score will drop a lot. So my recommendation or my advice is just call the bank. If you have an annual fee credit card, they will be happy to downgrade it to a no fee credit card, and keep your credit cards alive, as many credit cards alive as possible. If they are no
Okay.
fee credit card, the maximum they will take is closet space. And once in like every 1.5 year, just make $1 purchase on it. So
Got it.
even if you
Good
plan to
question there.
migrate at some point to US, you will have your credit history, and plus you will have a credit card that you can rent or purchase stuff from over there.
Understood. Understood. One quick question there. How do you manage the like when you change or move to India? How do you change your address? Like, is it possible to add an Indian address there and keep the communications going on?
Good question.
Does that happen
Good
or not?
question. Good question. So like, I would highly recommend, like, so most of us have lived over there for say 2, 3, 4 years. So I am using my friend's address, so, or your relative's address. Use one of their address, and because the maximum communication that that they will send you is a statement, and that also you can opt for a paperless statement, and then 90% of the communication would be through email. So
Okay.
to overcome that very hurdle, use a friend's address, so that they can communicate back to you that if they got some important correspondence from the bank.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Just want to add that what I'm observing in my case is like last 1.5 years, few of my credit cards are expiring. So when you give your friend's address, right, it's pretty easy that they will receive your credit card back to your friend's address. And obviously you have an option to activate it. So something you can do it online, you can activate it. And it's always better the friend's address, because that's where your card is in US and well protected with your friend over there.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yep.
Hey Karthik, this is Ashish. I was able to change my addresses for the cards to Indian address, and there were no issues. But yes, my no card has expired yet, so I don't know how I'm going to do the renewal. Okay, but I believe if you wish to change the address to an Indian address, okay, you would be able to change that. Okay.
Okay.
So
Mani, just another point that I wanted to add on what Indrajit said. The first credit card is a very good idea. The other thing that I probably did was, if you have multiple cards with the same bank and you have different limits on different cards, you can cancel all but one card and ask them to give you that limit on like for example, I had a Chase Sapphire and a Chase Freedom, so I transferred the Chase Sapphire's limit to Chase Freedom, so that way you'll have a
consolidated.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
So I would like to deep dive on, I mean, like, I might be digressing a little bit, but I would like to deep dive on the last point that was mentioned. Like, for example, if you have two credit cards from the same bank, Chase Sapphire and Chase Freedom, you have 15,000 limit on Chase Sapphire and 15,000 limit on Chase Freedom. What you can do is you can call the bank and ask them to transfer the credit limit from one of the cards to the other to the other card, because it's the same bank. But at the same, if you're living in the US, don't do that if you want to apply for more cards. So these let's say the persons who are living in US, because the thing is, banks then see you as a risk. Like, if they have extended a lot of credit to you, they won't approve any additional credit cards to you in the future, because if they have extended some 80 or 90,000 of credit limit to you and you are making some 80 or 90,000, so the risk factor goes up in that very case. So if you have enough credit with you, then you can go ahead and cancel, because at this very point of time, for example, I have some 100,000 credit from all the different credit cards. I would just cancel the credit card, not move the credit history. Like, if I have like the same credit from I have like 2 or 3 cards from Chase, I will just cancel it right away and free some of my credit. But this point is specifically for the users, for the listeners who are in the US.
Got it.
And can we? I have a question related to that. Can we convert any of our credit cards to an international credit card? Like, if we are not canceling like 2 or 3 credit cards which we are using in US, I know like one of my credit card is already an international credit card, but there is like 2 of my credit cards are like only limited inside US. So if we convert them to an international credit card, we can use them in India, right? Like, without any fees.
Yes. So the thing is, almost all the international credit cards would have a small amount of fee attached to them. So that's how they extend this very feature of international credit card. But I know Amazon Prime credit card from Chase, that is a no transaction fee credit card, which is a $0 annual fee credit card. So that is one of the credit card I know. But like, if it's a no transaction fee credit card or an international credit card, there might be a small fee or an annual fee attached to it. Okay. So depends. Like, if you're if you want to if you can eat up the fees, or you can get maximum amount of points or rewards from that very credit card by paying that very fee, go ahead. Just do the math. If you cannot if you're not coming out ahead with the annual fee, then obviously just cancel the credit card.
Thank you, Judith. Looks like Mani is having some issue with Zoom.
So in the meantime, like, if anybody has any specific question you want to ask,
we can keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. Vibhor is asking about 401k options. Can anyone talk about 401k?
I can talk about specifically what I have. Like, I have not done anything. I've left it as is just now, like, still there, going on. Maybe like I've left it for future to take a decision on. That is something I've not decided what to do, because there is money which if you withdraw, it will be charged with like 40% will be withheld, and then obviously you'll have to pay 30% tax on that. So that is something which I have left it for future, and maybe I'll take a decision going ahead in future. Because
And,
anyway, you need to pay
so
tax.
just-
Either you pay it this year or you pay it in future years. Doesn't matter. So something for future.
I don't know if this will work, but this is what I'm thinking at least. One of the things that you should probably do with 401k is definitely transfer it to a Roth IRA. That is much better. You'll not be taxed instead of leaving it in a 401k account, which might have some charges. So would recommend transferring it to a Roth IRA, which most of the like Vanguard and everybody offer free of charge for you. The idea, at least since I've moved just now, I'll have no income from next year, right? So the idea is that I withdraw something less than the non-resident alien limit, taxable limit. So that way I'll only be paying the 10% penalty and not the 30% income tax. So over a period of say 10, 15 years, I plan to withdraw the 401k completely.
Yeah. I would suggest actually whoever have 401k, I would suggest to chat or like call their the 401k holding company. Like they can tell like how much they charge if they keep it. Actually, if it is free of charge even after you quit the employer, like we can keep it over there. We don't have to change it. But the only limitation in 401k is the number of options are like limited. Like the Roth IRA may give like 1,000 options, but 401k may give you like only 20 or 30 options to invest your money in. But I checked with my holding company for the 401k. They will be charging like $30 every quarter to keep the account active, even after I quit the company. So I'm kind of thinking to keep it there, like at least for like 1 or 2 years, and then even from India we can move, right? That should not be an issue. Even from India we can create an IRA and move the money to an IRA.
Yeah, the same thing with $30 per quarter, but I'm keeping it as of now because that's not a huge sum they are charging. So as of now, as is process.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey,
Yeah.
this is Ashish. I would like to know if someone has done the 401k to Roth IRA from India. Okay. I know like there is a form, okay, which is supposed to be signed, okay. But if we are in India, how we can do that?
No, I don't know who's asking the question, but was that Ashish?
Yeah, Ashish.
Yeah, so Ashish, it's all completely electronic. So I transferred my 401 to Roth IRA in Vanguard. So all you have to do is call up Vanguard folks, and they guide you through the entire process. They give you like a address and to which the check should be mailed. So your holding company, I think it was Transamerica for me. So they just mail the check to Vanguard, and you don't have to sign anything or anything. Like no physical paper, it's all online, so you can do it.
Okay.
Karthik, when you move your money from 401k to Roth IRA like Vanguard, so do you have to select the options in the beginning itself, or they will just keep it in the money market?
So yeah, since it is a check that goes to them, as soon as it goes to them, right? So the check will be in the money market account. Then it's like a regular 401k. You can just go into their website and then choose where you want to put the money into.
Okay, good to know.
Great.
Yeah, if you don't do anything, it stays in the money market.
Awesome. Can you hear me there?
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just dropped out thanks to Gio. So one of the questions, just jumping before we move on to the next slide, is that moving funds, right, from US to India, a lot of people come asking the same question, like how do I safely and with the best exchange rate move their funds back to India? What do you guys think? Is going through a bank a better option, or going through Zoom or these wire transfer methods a better option? And just before you jump in there, my perspective is that if you want to move smaller amount of funds, like 10,000, 20,000, those kind of numbers, then and if you want it on an emergency basis, like immediately in the next 24, 48 hours or so, then Zoom or Western Union and those kind of money exchange services are better. But if you need better value for your money, as in like best exchange rates, then I found that something is SBI Cal has a better value there, because the only problem is they'll hold your money for like 24 to 48 hours, and once they do, They'll make sure that they, give you the best exchange rates, and the money will come to you, but it'll be a little bit slower a process. What do you guys think? Is that a better way to do it, or are there other tools or methods available that you've used?
I think SBI has been really good. A couple of advantages, like Mani said. First of all, they give you a lock-in the rate, exchange rate, when they initiate the transfer. And at the same time, you can do up to 250, 300K at once if you have a great rate, and funds will be there in like 2 to 3 days max. So SBI has always been great, and you can connect it with your primary bank account, like Bank of America or something. You transfer or wire from your primary bank account, or like give it in a check, any format. But once the money is in SBI, it's all like one day.
Yeah. Hey, Mani, when I use Zoom, okay, I got the funds in just 5 minutes. Believe me, okay. I mean, after IMPS, we do get the fund in 5 minutes. At max, I've seen like it taking half an hour at max. Okay, and that if you wish to actually like send more than $10,000, it might be cheaper to go to your bank for shifting the money, because then you get the rate on the stock market. You might be paying the fee, which might be slightly high, but if you're sending, but if you want to send more than $10,000, you will get that exchange rate, the actual exchange rate. Okay, normally we do not get the same rate what we see on the stock market. So I've seen that. And also, if you got a citizen account in US and also in India, they're also one of them that they provide you a real-time transfer from US to India. The only thing is that Citibank rates are bad. Okay, if it is like 72, they will give you like 69. Okay, though it is real-time, you lose, I mean, 3%, 4%, okay, in the fees.
And one thing I just want to add, like I work for a remittance company. So the company which I've joined is a remittance company, so Instagram. So what I have observed is that you can you can have account with multiple, like Remitly, Ria, Instagram, all of those. And depending on the day when you are trying to move, you can choose which is offering you the best rate, and you can move the money. So a couple of them takes like a couple of 48 hours, 24 hours to move it. Couple of them are like within 20-25 minutes, the money is there. So depending on which is offering you and what is your circumstances, you can keep moving the money. And obviously they have a slab, like depending on their KYC mode, they have different slabs. So if you need to move more than 10,000, 20,000, accordingly, you can opt for that kind of KYC mode, and then they will opt you to move that much extra money.
Got it. Thank you. Hey, just so Sudhir, I know that you mentioned that you need to jump out at 10 o'clock. So I'm just going to switch gears and come back to you. So for those of you who don't know, Sudhir is in Hyderabad and he runs his own company. It's called Shortlist. And he's probably the best man you can think of if you had questions on entrepreneurship in India. And a lot of people complain to me when I say that, India is far more better place as compared to like last 10 or 15 years back to start your own entrepreneurship and your own endeavors. So Sudhir, what is your take on it? Like, how has life been being an entrepreneur in India? What is your advice to people who probably are or want to start on their own in India once they move back?
Yeah, thanks, Mani. First of all, entrepreneurship is difficult, be it US or India. It's just difficult in a different way when you're trying to do it in India. So it's more of trying to understand the people. Most of the entrepreneurship comes from people than anything else. So it could be your investors, it could be your teammates, it could be your founders, co-founders, or even understanding your market. End of the day, it's all about people. So once you're very clear about what you want, India has like ton of options. You just need to be clear about what you want. There is like amazing talent here. Like I often thought like, talent is only technical. They're not like, they're missing on the soft skills. Yes, I totally agree about it. But all you have to do is there is a small premium that you have to pay for somebody if you want to really get some good quality. So what I have done, I'm like, I set up the team from scratch here on a complete technology and product, and like, complete lot of business people and everybody. It's your interview process. It's exactly about like, how you go around the process and like what kind of quality you accept. And there is a huge variation in the salaries, especially. So somebody with 3 years of experience with a similar skill set comes for 3 lakhs, and the same skill set comes for like 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs per annum. So that's a huge variation about like, who is in the bottom percentile versus the top quartile. So your screening process and like, your budget is what will allow you to bring in the right kind of talent, is what I would say. And when it comes to investors, the investors in India have been more like, coming from a reference standpoint rather than in US, where they do a lot of research for you on like on your behalf. They do the research and like ask good questions. Our experience hasn't been so great with Indian investors, but when you have moved to India and like, if you have access to some US investors, you are in a sweet spot. Because I'm like, you have an ability and you have India is a large market. Everybody wants to access these days. And if you're trying to make something for $1, you have an opportunity to sell it for like $10 in US because you are in India. So Indian entrepreneurs have become like, something like a sweet choice for US investors. It's a very long story, but I'm like, definitely a ton of
that makes sense.
I would be happy to chat answer any specific questions per se.
Got it. What would your recommendation be like for anyone who would want to start on their own in India? Like, how do you recommend they plan their whole process?
Yeah, if you want to plan any startup in India, like, mainly understand who where your team is going to be, who your investors are going to be, and that is where you start. From the logistical standpoint, from the taxation standpoint, I'm like chartered accountant, identifying a good chartered accountant. Once you finalize those people, everything is going to be really smooth. The beauty of entrepreneurship in India is like, you can afford a lot of services for a very low cost. Be it about like admin. I'm like in US, I'm like when I've done any of my own startups, I'm like used to juggle between a lot of chores and all the actual entrepreneurship stuff, admin stuff. So here it's very easy for you to really focus on like bigger business strategy and like more serious things, and like easy to outsource a lot of these low level things which are easy to outsource. Like you can have a chartered accountant whom you can keep them on a yearly basis, who are always there to handle any tax related questions, any finance related questions, any hey, I have this terms of service. I'm like, no, I'm putting this agreement here. I'm like, can you review it for me? People are there, just identify them once and then use them throughout. It will become like you have a large set of team in India itself. So identify your legal team, identify your tax team, and then like identify your recruiting team. That will solve majority of your problems.
Understood. Thanks, Sudeep. Great. If anyone have any questions on entrepreneurship, feel free to ask in the Q&A, and we'll take it up. So Akash is asking, how much time does it take to start a company in India? I think a few days or a few weeks, actually. I mean, it's the process has gotten so quicker these days. Sudeep, do you want to answer that?
It is very quick, roughly 2 weeks. There is a director registration that you have to do, and like there is a physical device that has to arrive, but max is 2 weeks. It's very kind of similar to the US now. I think in US also it takes around like 2 weeks, except that you can use the company name in a little quicker once you identify it. But roughly 2 weeks you'll have everything done, and it costs you around like 25 to 30,000 rupees, depending on what kind of company you open.
Got it. I think we missed out on one question from the Q&A box here. Rashmi was asking, and this is not related to entrepreneurship, but back to personal finance. If we transfer post-tax money from US to India after a couple of years after moving to India, would we be taxed again in India? Sorry to jump back and forth, but we're seeing questions coming in from all places, like there are folks mentioning and DMing me on WhatsApp as well. So does anyone want to answer that? what I understood before any of you jump in from the previous webinar from our personal finance expert is that it depends on your status. And it also depends on like in a case-to-case basis. But depending on whether you are an NRI at that point of time or not, and whether you have paid your taxes in the US, it would require you to. I mean, there are no double taxation stuff happening here as long as you've cleared your documents and you've done your processes due diligently. So ideally, you would have to pay the taxes in the US, and if you have, you can show those documents in India, and you wouldn't have to pay taxes on them again. That's a short answer. But then there are these different moving parts depending on your profile, and that's where it would matter. But did anyone have any other point to add there?
Yeah, so normally like you need to still keep on paying for your taxes, okay, even when you're in India, okay, in US, and you need to declare your assets in US. Okay, so if you even if you do not actually like shift those I mean funds to India, okay, you will have some kind of a backing that, you know what, hey, I had declared this in so and so in I earned that money in that year, and this is that money. Okay, but normally people simply stop paying for the taxes. Okay, actually they don't need to taxes, they don't need to pay Indian taxes, so they stop paying, so they stop actually filing their tax returns. Okay, but then it can be issue. So if you even if you're in US, you should keep on, I mean, at least filing your income tax return in India.
Got it. Thanks for that, Ashish. So there's one question that you might be interested in answering. This is from I don't know the name GN. Are there any consultancies or lawyers who can handle opening a fully owned subsidiary of a US entity in India?
Yeah, there are a couple of firms who are completely helping these startups, especially who are very well acquainted with both US laws and Indian laws, and they can how you can register your company to be a whole subsidiary of your US entity, where your IP lies, where are your resources, how do you transfer the money if you're raising the funds in US versus in India, all of those things. There are some legal startup firms who can help you with those kind of things. Because like some of the questions are like, hey, my invested money is going to be coming from US, I'm going to be paying to somebody in India. I have to have a different company in India for whatever logistical purposes. All of those things you should be able to have something called like intercompany agreement, and then transfer the money so that you avoid taxation, or not show it as a profit but as a intercompany transfer and those sort of things. So those are all do it once, set it up once, and then run it every time. So that one-time setup is something you need that startup legal lawyer. There's a company. There's a couple of my neighbors who've been doing this for over a decade now. I can connect you with them. I'll share their details on the WhatsApp group.
Awesome. And there's one from Varun Kulkarni. He's asking, is it better to start a company in a tier 1 or a tier 2 city? Is there any comparisons that you can think of which makes it desirable in either one of these locations? That's something that we can answer today.
Yeah, it's registering the company is a very on the paper thing. So it's more about what you want to do with the company. What's your idea? Where do you want to settle? Where do you want to set up your team? Where do you want to sell your products? These days, most of the products are very, you want to build something in India and sell it to the globe, right? There's nothing like a local product. If it's a local product, then you have to think more about it. But if it's a global product, think where your team is going to settle down, not initially, but even at a later point. So the beauty of something in going for metros is things are slightly developed. There is a process. People are more educated. People are aware of these complicated things versus you go for rural areas. People are not aware of all of the different processes, not up to date with the technology or changes in the laws and so on so stuff. The whole startup culture and all is not very much up to date for your remote places. So yeah. I would say high focus is about what you want to do and where you want to settle down with your office headquarters.
And also just something to add there. If you're thinking about costs of running a company, then perhaps, in a tier 2 city, you might find cheaper talent and stuff like that. But again, it's very difficult to tell you that, tier 1 is better than tier 2 or the other way around. It totally depends on what you're trying to do. How Sudhir said, are you trying to sell to the globe or locally, and all that different things. So hope that answers it. let's jump to the next question. So
okay, Mani, can I make a clarification? I think there were a lot of questions on the 401k. I misspoke 401k to Roth IRA. I mean, actually, you can transfer from a 401k to traditional IRA without any tax implications. If you transfer to a Roth IRA, there will be tax implications. So I'm sorry, I misspoke as I transferred my money from 401 to a Roth. I have actually done a 401 to traditional IRA, where there are no tax implications.
Got it. Yeah, appreciate that, Karthik. Makes sense. There's one question from Ashim Mohanty about, again, entrepreneurship. I'm just bundling everything possible before Sudhir jumps out of this call. So he's asking how to start a company for someone who has no entrepreneurship experience before and have no contacts in India. Sudhir, this is right up.
It's a hard question. Now my follow-up question is like, what do you want to do? Do you want to set up a team in India? Do you want to sell your product to India? It depends, right? Either way, if you want to sell your product, you still want to know, build a team and who can have provide you some ground reality, somebody closer to your users and those kind of things. But if you're trying to set up your team without no contacts and all, there are some services who can set up a captive for you. So they will go pick a co-working space, they will hire some people, they'll do some employer branding, because people cannot join a company when they don't know where the company is and who they are. Either you are some large company outside India and trying to set up your captive in India, that's different. But without that, employer branding is very important, because there is some stigma with people joining startups without some good branding, because there are so many stories about where people were not paid well for months together in startups. So these days awareness has changed a lot, especially in southern India, like Telangana and all. There's so much of startup hub culture that's starting to come up. So I would encourage you to have somebody who can help you set up the teams, or outsource all your needs to one company, either a marketing agency or a software development, depending on what kind of company it is, and then have them run the business for you in many ways. So that is probably the most easier way without getting into so much headache, because if you don't have so much of contacts in India. So outsourcing companies for both marketing and software development.
Makes sense. Yeah, so we do have an entrepreneurs group as well on WhatsApp. So if any of you want to join or have more questions, you're happy to join there. If you can DM me, I can. If you can DM me, I can send you the invites to those groups. So there is part of the group as well, and we have other people in there as well who have experience from that field. So feel free to DM me, and I'll send you the invite. Okay, so let's switch gears to something a little bit more important, per se. So family, right? I mean, all of us struggle with that. Convincing the family to move back to India, spouses and extended family and things. That's always a challenge for many of us. And one of the biggest questions that get asked is, how early should I be looking for schools if you have kids? And what is the process there? Do I take interviews from US? Do schools admit you or give you admissions remotely, or do I have to be physically present? And which is the best school, or which is the best syllabus that I should choose from? I think someone in the chat session, in the chat box, was mentioning about this, and I think one of our panelists were willing to answer the question. Can you remind me who that was? Is that you, Inder? I think it was you, right? I saw you.
Mani, I can answer about junior level college schooling process. I can cover that part. Okay, so hey guys, yeah. So I'll especially talk about my experience when I moved. So I had twins, and they were 2.5 to 3, so they were ready for nursery to join. So what I did was, when I landed, it was April month, and that's the session in Mumbai starts in June. It may be pretty similar in Bangalore as well. So it starts in June. So I actually landed at the perfect time, where it was April, and then from the day one itself, I started running for finding a house as well as school. And that's when I went there. I inquired whether they have seats and what they process. So what I found, there's a school called Vibgyor where my kids are going right now. and they run like a morning and evening batches, like 2 batches in a day. So the morning batch was full when I landed that point, but evening batch had a space for my kids. So that's where I discussed with them, and then they had a formal round of interview, or you can say a discussion with kids, where they ask a couple of questions, and pretty much just a more of a like a meet and greet thing. Once you complete the meet and greet, that's when formally they make you join. So that is one. So April is the perfect time. By April, if you can, because the process starts quite early. Like the if you want to have a comfort zone, June is the time period when the year starts. But if you are like December, or you can reach out early, that's the most safest. But April, May is the like time where you will have to finally they end the joining period for that year. And depending on school to school, like more branded school will have more strict timelines, and their seats will get occupied. While if it is less branded, you will find the seats over there, so will not have much trouble.
Understood. That makes sense of it. Yeah, one of the questions that people keep asking is whether certain schools, certain reputed schools in certain cities, whether they accept or take interviews remotely from the US. Is that like a standardized process? Have you seen so it, or is it because it is certain schools that they do this, or how do parents approach this situation? Like that's a burning.
So basically, I think there is no standardized process as such. So the normal process is that, like I can say that if a school like Vibgyor, which is a good branded school, 90 to 95% school kids are domestic in nature. So they are not accustomed for US based scenario. So that is completely one of scenario. But what I found them, they were quite willing. So when you call them up, when they have dedicated receptionists who are picking the phone, taking your use case, noting it down. So I would recommend that if you have in mind, then you do make a call, inquire with them, check with them that you want your kid and you will be landing on this particular date, and this is how it can be done. At this point of time, everybody is going with a video conferencing, so I think they would not have any issue. But back when I landed, I feel that they are pretty open to a point wherein at least if you provide your commitment that you're coming, if you're ready to pay the school fees in advance, they would do a video conferencing and this kind of thing, and make your life a little bit easier. So a better thing is call up the school, and I found that the school have proper receptions who will be taking your call and answering your questions.
Got it. And one thing that a lot of people are worried about is how do kids cope up with the change in environment and studies and everything, because one of the things that is coming their way once they come to India is the second language problem, right? So Hindi or whatever the regional languages is something in certain states a must as well, and NRI kids have issues coping up with that. So how does that work? And before anyone answers, just adding my perspective and my experience with it. When my kids joined or moved back to India, the school that I joined them in were actually familiar with a lot of NRI kids coming in, and they were actually, they were used to the situation. So they were actually willing, and they came forward and helped the kid deal with that problem, as in they gave a lower grade textbook to deal with in the first 1 year, and he was given like separate exams and things like that, just to handhold him until he's up to the mark with the rest of the kids in the class. I mean, 1 year is not enough, but that was a huge support from the school that they offered. And I think many schools who are very familiar with the NRI folks coming in do this kind of gestures to help the kids, crop up with that challenge. But again, it's not something that every school do, but that's something you probably want to keep in mind while you choose your schools, whether they give you this kind of additional support to cope up with the change. Does anyone have any insight to add there, any experience or any points there?
I can talk about like a daycare to transition to here, like mostly like if your kid is young, like 2 year, 3 year, like your kid would be going to a daycare back in US. And over here, when you come back to India, your very first important question which will be hitting your head is, how will my kid go to daycare over here? Is the daycare equivalent to what they have been seeing in US? cleanliness, fooding pattern, and everything of that nature. So what I found here is that there are daycares which are pretty much near to what you have been seeing in US. Only difference what I observed is that in the US you have like a 1:6 teacher to kids ratio and that kind of thing. Here it is like you can imagine that there'll be one teacher while there are multiple in Mumbai they call DDs, like who are the helping hands who will be helping. So there will be multiple of those, and they will be taking care of feeding the kids and taking care of their bathrooms and other restrooms related activity. So on that regard, you can rest assured. And for me also, it was a migration when my kid was like 2.5. So what I found, like first 2 weeks will be always challenging, where your kids will really not like to go to the new daycare setting, not like to that. And obviously you start comparing apple to apple, it will not be the same. But within 2 weeks, my kid adjusted, and literally first day it was like crying. This is like same going to any daycare the first day, but after that they literally adjusted to that point. And regarding the schooling, since my kids were just like learning the language, for them the language barrier was not that much, so they adjusted well with that thing. But to a point, to the senior kids, like at least in the grade of second or third grade, they may find little bit like a second language, those kind of problem. For me, it was not there at least.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Sohit. Let me switch over to Kunal here. Kunal, can you hear me? So Kunal is someone, for those of you know, who moved back to India a few years earlier, and he's been working in rural parts of India. Some really amazing work this gentleman is doing, and I was really impressed by his work when I talked to him the first time. Kunal, if you don't mind, I know you gave a small intro, but tell us why we need more people, NRI talent, coming into India.
Mani, I think Kunal actually dropped. He sent a message on the chat.
Okay. I didn't see that. Okay, we'll switch back. So let's take a few questions from the Q&A box here. So Ishan is asking, how has the work culture changed in India? Typically, while I was in India 10 years ago, it was more like you take instructions from your manager and your subordinate or lower level rank wasn't given much need. In the US, you're given more freedom in terms of opinions and ideas, even if you're not an officer level. How do you deal with it? Well, Ishan, it's very difficult to kind of draw a median line through all of this. I mean, when we say India, you know, the ground reality is very different. Like Mumbai behaves in one way, Bangalore behaves in one way, and within Bangalore, you know, startups behave in one way, while maybe TCS or big companies, they behave in a different way. And what I've seen is that personally, it's very difficult to kind of come together in a very how do you call it, a very broad kind of an answer, right? Startups are very aggressive. They give a lot of room for improvement. There's no 9 to 5 strict times to work, but at the same time, the work pressure might be bigger. But then you are expected to do whatever you can and just come up with your deliverables. So there's no much of micromanagement or bureaucracy, so to speak. But that may not be the case with I don't want to take names, but a bigger company, right? So it's very difficult to say such, but again, I see where you're coming from. Like in the US, there's very less, but I've seen people even complain that in the forums, especially when such a question comes up, that even in the US, there are certain pockets where there are certain issues, even though it may not be glaring or big as it is in India, there are issues as well. So I don't know how to answer that. Is there someone who wants to jump in and answer that question?
Yeah, Mani. So, as you rightly said, the startup has its own culture. Like a service-based industry will have its own set of culture. So, because I joined a startup, right? So all my colleagues have already been through the US journey. So they, whoever is at my level, they are through the US journey. So they know how the working culture. It is we who are shaping the culture over there in that company. So it is more like America. So I don't face that problem day to day, like any kind of that thing. But in a service-based company where you have to please your client at every point of time, you will find that nuances wherein you will be bogged in, like if you want to come out with an idea, but everything it will be shot down with whether the client will like it or not like it. But it depends on which organization you're joining, how is your hierarchy structure, how is your manager being used to, whether he has seen the American culture or not. So all those will be a driving factor of the experience which you get. while working.
Yes, I agree, completely agree. Do we want to switch to the movers question, because that's one of the probably the that's been asked in our community. Karthik, do you want to comment on which is the best shipping agency or which is the best movers that that you would recommend?
So I kind of actually researched a lot about the movers, but frankly, Mani, based on what I heard in the forum and also what I was reading reviews online, right? Uh, I mean, there are always pluses and minuses for all of them. So I personally did not have much of a luggage. So what I ended up doing was I did bring the boxes along with me while I flew. So one of the things that I would, if you have lesser than 4 boxes, I would really say probably bringing it with you on the flight would probably be the cheapest option. And also check before you kind of go to the airport itself, because a lot of times when airlines do not have enough cargo, right, they tend to kind of give out luggage for like much cheaper. Like in my case, I was flying Emirates, and normally it's a $200 fee, but since I booked it online, I got it for $100, which is same as what Universal or Unirelo would kind of charge for their shipping. So I mean, it depends from person to person, but I personally did not have any kind of experience with the relocators itself, like how they take it to a port and you having to collect it. I didn't have to go through that.
Understood. And one thing that I've found as well is that it's very difficult. I completely agree with Karthik to name just one company that's amazingly better than the others. I mean, certain ones are marginally better than the other guy. That's probably what it comes to. But maybe one or two names are very popularly or very often quoted in our community with good service. I don't mind taking names. So SFL Worldwide and Unirelo, those are the two names that I've seen people comment with positive reviews. But that again being said, there are issues as well, and these are very case-to-case basis. You can't really say that this company will take care of everything 100%. There could be issues, especially when your shipment comes to India and it's stuck with customs. That's where most of the issues come up. There are things that the agencies cannot control, like unforeseen delays in terms of whether your shipment is released or not, whether you have all documents cleared, etc. And that's where a lot of frustration arises. But having said that, if you plan it out properly and if you keep your right expectations, please don't expect that the shipment is going to come on the day to you before. Usually what happens is there's a little bit of delay, and you should allow that. And if you keep those right set of expectations, I think maybe these two companies as well as the others as well can do a good job. We also have gotten a lot of complaints about certain companies like Gandhi Shipping and Universal Relocations, actually, which is actually not same as Unirelo, by the way. And we've gotten a lot of people complaining about them as well. So I'm not shy to not to mention them, but I think everyone should take their own judgment and figure out what works for you. It's very difficult to answer with one company.
One thing that I probably learned.
Okay.
Yeah, please go
ahead. One thing that I probably learned is that if you have like expensive electronics and everything, it's better to not ship it and carry it with you in your checked baggage. So if you have a PlayStation, if you have like a soundbar or something, it's better to carry it with you than putting it into things that you probably hand over Unirelo or SFL, whoever it is.
Yes, that's a very, very valid point. And a lot of people through my blog and otherwise find me and ask me, how do I buy an iPhone 12 from US to India? Similar to the shipping question. And this is, again, the same thing. The problem is, from what I understand, the ground reality with customs is that it's their choice as to how much they charge you as in terms of duty. And even though on paper it is mentioned that if it's household item that's being used, electronics that is, then they should not be charging any duty. But then certain cases we've seen that duty is being charged, and it sometimes even goes up to 30% of the actual price of the electronic. So it's probably a good idea not to take the chance and take the electronics items with you and not leave it with the rest of the items. But again, having said that, there are folks who have managed it, without any problems, without any duty, without any delay. So, we don't know why that's happening. Maybe luck, maybe something else. We don't know. But yeah, that's a good point, Karthik. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and I just want to add my perspective a little bit. So what happened was, like, I did my own research before booking the shipment, and I found that none of them are good. Everybody has a pretty bad review and everything. So what I decided was that I would only dump the stuff which is like I'm ready to lose. For example, warm clothes, utensils, toys, all those of nature, which was like, oh, you're okay to, like, it will get lost, it will not be delivered. It's perfectly fine. So that's when I went ahead with that thing, and I dumped all those things, and I used universal relocation. To my surprise, the whole process went very, very smooth. The whole thing was delivered to my home in Mumbai at my house. On the call, on the email, they did respond well. It was delayed. So like whole process took almost 3 to 3.5 months for the delivery. But to my surprise, it was like perfect. The box which I packed it, exactly it was delivered in Mumbai the same way. But believe me, had I known that was a delivery, I would have packed much more stuff over there rather than throwing it. But yeah, it's, like a whole thing is full of reviews, and reviews are not great.
Got it. I agree. Just one quick question. Note to all the attendees. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. It's very difficult to monitor the chat box, but yeah, please put them in the Q&A box. We have a few hands raised here. So Shruti Patil, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, please. Shruti, can you hear us? Okay. Anchal Nema, are you available? We'll be taking a few more questions via audio from the attendees. So if you want to come on audio and ask your questions, feel free to raise your hand, and I can let you come on board.
I had a question. Sorry, I was on mute. I was speaking all the while, and I didn't realize I was on mute. So this is Anchal. I'm actually planning to move to India in a month. So I haven't done any bulk transfer of more than 10K. I know some of it was answered in one of the previous questions, but I wasn't very clear on what the exact guidelines are. I do hear that for bulk transfers through ICICI, I think you do not get like good exchange rates, right? So can somebody speak about it, right? Look, based on their experience compared to Zoom or other third-party applications, which bank provides a very good competitive exchange rate? Yeah. And then what is the process of setting up that?
Sure. Panelists, anyone wants to answer that question?
My recommendation is that
experience, Zoom. Okay, Zoom is actually very good. Okay, but if you really want the best rate, okay, which is available on the stock market, you will have to go to use your bank. They might charge you an additional fee, but their rate is always the best. Okay, but yes, you need to be sending at least like $20,000. Okay, for small money, they will not give you the best rates. Okay, but for the big money, they will give you the rate which is actually like on the stock market.
There's one
recommendation is that, yeah, my recommendation is that you have Remit, like there are multiple sites, you can compare the rates, and whichever rates works out better. You can have like multiple partners, you can open account with multiple of them, and whichever works out, you can use that to transfer. So I think you should not limit yourself to one player, one vendor. There are multiple players in this game, and you can use them together to find whichever is the best rate for you at that point of time.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind is that services, the way they differ is based on certain factors. Like, for example, certain tools or services, they are good in transferring the money quickly, And for that, the hit you take is their interest rate, or the exchange rate might be a little bit higher than the others, but you'll get the money quickly. Usually these folks would have a limit on the amount that you can send in one go. You would have to like split it into different, like after every 24 hours or so. Then on the other side of the spectrum, you have banks and other tools which are very slow in moving your funds. They usually will have to hold it for more than 24 to 48 hours in certain instances, but then you might get better rates compared to the quick transfer services. Not probably the best as in like the Google rates. But there's another, like the new age banks and services like TransferWise and some of the other names that were mentioned here, which offers the Google rates. Like for example, whatever is Google showing as 1 USD to INR, whatever that rate is, they can give you those rates. But then the hit you take is that there might be fees associated with it. There will be limits on how much money you can send. So these are essentially some of the factors that you have to keep in mind when comparing these different tools. I mean, obviously, there's no one tool that works for everyone, but based on what you need. Did anyone want to differ on that or add to it?
So, I mean, if you guys can give me a name, I was just looking for like, one or two good examples that people have done in the past. I mean, and for me, time is not the constraint. For me, the exchange rate is my criteria.
So Anshul,
I use like RIA, Instagram.
Yeah, what I've found useful is there's a website called as compareremit.com. So
Got
that
it.
is like an aggregator of all of the service providers that are there. So typically I check them first, and whoever is giving me a better rate, I use them for transferring. I have accounts in more than 3 or 4 places. So
I also do the same thing, exactly. Go there and then
Compare
compare
Remit is a
whichever
good
is the
site.
best, I just do the transfer.
And for bulk transfers, you're saying going through bank makes sense, but you have to figure out between banks which one is providing the better rate.
No, even bulk transfer you can do with the same vendors. Like these vendors also support bulk transfer. It's just the KYC mode differs. You need to just upgrade your KYC level over there.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so let's switch gears and take one more question from the Q&A box here. Has anyone explored the online school in the US while in India? Akash is asking. I'm not sure. Akash, can you elaborate on that? Like which online school? What kind of are you looking for? Like for adults or for kids? If you can elaborate on that, please. We'll switch over to another question while Akash clarifies it. Is it easy to maintain a rental property from India? Asks Nishant. We've had some discussions about this topic in the forums, and one of the answers that came out was yes, it is, and it's usually advised to keep a real estate agency maintain or take over your property in the India, fee or basically keep them happy, maintain and manage your property. But then it's probably the most legal and hassle-free way of doing it. But there are also other informal ways of doing it. But this is what I can think of. Do any of you have a better answer to that?
Yeah, just want to add one experience that my friend had was like, he actually went through a personal route, like he was trying to manage his own property directly, and he had a pretty terrible experience. So yeah, managing through rental property agents or companies is a much better idea. It's much more hassle free, and you have more control over it. Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Mani, I think it can be managed, okay, from India, I can say, okay, based on my own personal experience. Okay, I don't know, I mean, what was the challenge, but like, I do my agreement. I do have like some people, okay, whom I can give a call for taking care of the home, okay, as required, and they are reasonably priced. Okay, I mean, curated this relationship like while I was in US. Okay, so that thing is actually like working out. Okay, and if like in my city, if I have if I have someone else to do my own management, I'm going to lose about like 15%. Okay, it was also like one like a kind of a inspiration to actually do things on. So I can say, okay, like I mean, if you have got any question, okay, I can definitely answer, okay, but it depends upon like your own willingness, okay, how much you have the time to do, but it's not that tough, okay.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, like I mentioned, there are other ways to do it as well, but then as a very standardized, hassle-free method, you might want to go for agencies, but then the hit you take is that you have to pay them a cut from whatever it is that you're making from the rental income. So, but like what Anshul mentioned, there are other ways as well. So, yes. We have other folks raising hands. Shruti, are you still available there? Do you want to get on audio? Next up is Ravi, Neeraj, and Yogesh. If any of you guys want to ask a question on audio, feel free to, because I've given you permission.
Hey, Mani, this is Ravi. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ravi, please go ahead.
Hi, I have two questions. One is regarding RSUs and stocks. Do you guys have any idea how they're taxed if you cash them out, maybe once you move to India 5 years later down the lane or 6 years down the lane? I mean, you move to India today and you cash them out 5 or 6 years later. The other question is an extension to the bulk money transfer. You guys use Remitly or Zoom or some of the services, but the thing I found difficult with them is you cannot transfer large sums in hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially the money you get when you sell a house or something like that. So what's the solution out there? And one last question, this is for you, Mani. So I've seen a lot of people asking to see if there is a way to join us in the WhatsApp groups. Can you shed light on what's the process, or where can we find these groups? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll let the panelists answer the other question, but the WhatsApp group question, please email me at hi@manikarthik.com. We have Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups. Telegram has a problem with their invitation link, even though I've been sending invitation to through email. For some reason, certain ISPs block it. So that's the reason why you're not able to join. But the group is live and kicking. We have all kinds of discussions going on there. So if you have any issues joining any of these groups, please email me at hi@manikarthik.com. I'm assuming that you're already registered on Back to India and you have your invites in email, but please email me personally and I'll make sure that you get the invites. But then to answer the other questions, is there anyone who wants to take it up?
I mean, I just had the query, this exact same query about the stocks with my the tax agent. So I'm actually a part of Amazon, and we are getting like a tax consultant for next 2 or 3 years until my Amazon stocks invest. So it totally depends on your tax status. So there are like based on how many days you have spent in the last few years in India. You can find yourself to be either non-resident or resident, and there's third category as well, right? For each of these three categories, there are different taxations. But essentially, for first year or first 2 years, when there is like a good overlap between number of days you have spent in US, all the tax credit benefits, or you don't have to basically file taxes in two places. But when you, I mean, the only key catch is when you become resident, which is like, you have spent a significant amount of time in last 2 or 3 years in India, then all the stocks that get vested, you need to be a little careful around, that, it's not that only on the capital gain you will be charged money, but it will be on the whole stock itself. Right. So only happens when your resident status changes to resident. So essentially, my tax agent advised me that while you are NRI or while you are non-resident, try to take your stocks out and like reinvest them as an Indian citizen. Like do that transaction. That helps in not getting taxed, not just for the capital gain but for the entire stock. If you become resident and your stocks, you sell your stocks after you become resident. So I would advise talking to like the tax agent who understands in your first 2 or 3 months of in your visit in India, that talk them through and plan it based on that. Like don't wait until you become resident and then it is too late. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's also what I was going to answer. I mean, a lot of it depends on your status and what has happened in the past and the context there. And it's definitely not a good idea to give one answer to it. So last time we had 2 personal finance webinars, and this was also one of the questions that kept asked there. Kept coming up there. So if you want to get in touch with some of the experts like taxation folks and CAs who might be able to help you with this, please email me and I can put you in touch with them. Happy to, and then you can share your information and context, and they'll be able to give you a proper, fair kind of an answer. So that's
thank you, man.
Cool. Thanks, Ravi.
Yes. Hi, this is Neeraj.
Yeah, go ahead, Neeraj.
Yeah, I had a quick question about schooling. So I was 7 years old, and we are planning to come back to India next year in April-May timeframe. This year we had planned, but because of the lockdown, we had to move it by another year. So how do you pick the right school, and what syllabus would be the best for a second grader who will go to 3rd grade next year?
Understood. Yeah, this is again one of the very, very popular questions in the forum. So I'll add my bit, and then I'll let other people join and add their bit as well. My personal opinion is that there is no one particular syllabus that's good for everyone, but the good thing is that you have options in India. So you have everything from international schools to CBSE and everything in between. I think CBSE is a little bit more easy to get adjusted to, not the perfect one, but then international has a little bit more. It has a different dynamics. Like it's a little bit more less stressful, but at the same time it has more exposure and things like that. And there are, to be honest with you, a lot more other different types of syllabuses these days that some of us even don't know of. Like when you research, you'll find these different types of sub-syllabuses even. So it really depends on what your kid might be comfortable with. You obviously don't want to put them, like throw them under the bus, because, typically in India, the curriculum and the syllabus is very more pressurizing than what it is in the US. So when they switch over, there's obviously going to be a lot of change. There's a lot of going to be they need to grapple with whatever is happening in India. So you need to handhold them before they are ready to do that. So in that first 1 or 2 years, it's really important. I think this is from my personal perspective, that you need to just take it slow and easy for them, make it easy for them so that they don't feel that pressure. So whatever syllabus works for them is better. And it's very difficult to say which one is better. Each syllabuses have their own ups and downs and pluses and minuses. Although one common thing that I've found from different syllabuses is that, again, like I mentioned earlier, the language problem, right? So if they have to learn Telugu, Hindi, Tamil, Malayalam, whatever it is, that becomes a big issue. So you have to prepare that in advance. And if possible, even from the US, if we can give them, a little bit of home tuition and stuff just to prepare them so that it makes it easier for them to ease in, that'll be a good idea. But even when you choose schools, make sure that you're choosing schools that will make it easy for them to kind of get along with. But Suvit, did you have any inputs there? You seem to know a lot about it.
Yeah, so what I have seen, like the one where I sent my kid is CBSE school. So what I found till like 2nd grade, what they mentioned is that all the schools follow the same syllabus, whether it is, you name it, IGSC or CBSE or whatever is the board, they all have the same syllabus. So that was so for us the decision factor was that, like, instead of sending them far from, because they're kids, right, we don't want to make them travel in this heat and all those kind of thing. So for me the priority was that I should get a good school in the neighborhood where they can easily reach. And as they mentioned, till 2nd grade it is the same syllabus, so I went ahead with the CBSE. It may be after the 2nd grade I may take a chance to move them based on that, but by then I would be aware what is best for them, and then I will make a call to move them. And if accordingly, like, we'll have to shift the houses and those, by then you will be settled over there. Only drawback with that approach is that there is a one-time admission fee which every school charges you. So once you make a switch, right, you will be losing the that one-time admission fee, and you have to pay once again to the new school.
All right, thank you.
Read it. What will make you read it?
If you want to go ahead.
Hi, this is Yogesh.
Yes, good, Yogesh.
Yeah, we're moving late November, and thanks for a great webinar. The questions I have are two questions, and one tied to the taxes, like being US citizen, how do we kind of maintain the address and then avoid the California state tax going forward? And the other side of is kind of more of a answer to other question that was asked regarding Remitly and all that. Do make sure if you're moving to NRE account, some of these Zoom and other services, they don't allow you by default, they don't allow you to move to NRE account. So make sure your account transferring to the right account. That's also key consideration when you move the money.
Got it. It makes sense, Yogesh.
So any advice on the address and forwarding things and stuff to make sure you don't incur the state taxes while you're in India?
Hey, so I'm not aware about exactly the state taxes thing, but I do hear actually on the people, like they do not like paying for the California taxes. As long as you are not a resident of that state, you will not be paying those taxes. So if you move to India, you will not be paying those taxes. But obviously, when you move to India, you will not be even having those earnings, right?
No, you
So
in California, you have to or being US citizen, you have to pay taxes on your global income. And I do have.
So you will be paying those for your federal taxes, but you will not be paying for the state taxes on
I
those.
see.
Oh, okay. Do you get
I
me?
see. Okay.
Yeah. So as long so if you got you got an Indian address, you will be paying for the federal part, but you will not be having a state part.
Okay. So just forwarding address within California shouldn't be a challenge then. Right?
I believe
okay.
so. Yeah. I mean, I'm not paying any taxes anymore. But yes, I'm not a American citizen. Okay.
Okay.
Yogesh, if you want to get in touch with the taxation expert I mentioned earlier, please ping me offline. I can put you in touch with him. Again, I don't want to give an answer that might be inaccurate.
That's really good, because it's very hard to find somebody who knows the both side of impacts, because that's another challenge, like moving expenses and stuff. Like one side says it's taxable here, but you can check on other side, and certain things you need to consider both side of equation for tax liability. So if you have somebody who knows both sides, that will be awesome.
I can give you a few options, so feel free to email me at
yeah. I just sent you email regarding something else as well.
Thanks, Yogesh. Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Okay. Anirban, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Mani. First of all, I want to thank you for this webinar. It's really helpful. And so I'm currently in Morrisville and been here in US for the last 7 years. So I have some time in hand before I move back, about at least not before a year. So I'm trying to plan things around before moving, making the move. So I want to plan things right ahead. So I have two questions. First one is regarding the 401k. I know a lot of things have been already answered, but I want to know, I have some money parked in my 401k account. So what would be my first step? So should I have my money in the Fidelity, who was managing my 401k from my previous employer. So Fidelity also has an option for traditional IRA. So is the first thing that I going to do is move my money to the traditional IRA? And then, what would be the, ladder process of moving the money from traditional IRA to Roth IRA? That's my first question. Second one is regarding taxations in the US. So once I move back to India, say after a year later, and I have a checking account, I maintain a credit card with a minimum balance, just for credit history purposes. Do I still need to keep filing my taxes in the US? And Yeah, so those are two questions. And Mani, if you can share some tax consultant, because I have my specific situation of for managing my finances, and so do others. So I think I have been looking also for a tax consultant, who can really guide me through this, because there's so many things I don't know, and there's so many question marks in my head.
Yeah, Anirban, I have the same answer for you. And it's very difficult to summarize and assume a lot of things and give you a proper accurate answer, especially when it comes to taxation. So I would rather take it offline and forward you to the right person. So if you want to email me, I would definitely be happy to help you connect you with the right person. Sorry, what was your second question?
Second question was regarding US taxation once I move back. So do I have to file taxes in the US when I'm maintaining a check-in account here in the US, but I've moved back to India at that time? For so
Yeah,
from the
so
point of taxation.
limited experience, and disclaimer, I'm not a finance taxation expert or anything. What we understood is that as you have a 182 days or closer to that number figure before you actually convert your status from NRE to a resident Indian. And once you become a resident Indian, then you have to disclose your global income here in India. And if you've paid taxes in the US, you have to show the documents here, and you will be excused, or you will be awarded any kind of double taxation. So that is a good part of it. Now there could be other complications as to when you submitted the taxes and all that stuff. So that's only something that a proper expert can answer. So is it okay if I answer you offline, or?
Yeah, that will be great.
Okay. Thank you, Anirban.
Thank you very much.
Great. So let's switch gears and get back to some of the other QAs. Neha is asking a very, very significant question. I think whatever we just talked about, kind of summarizes. Neha Pathak is asking, can you please summarize a list of to-dos during the move from USA, please? And also, what are the pros and cons of moving from US or other parts of the world to India? Who wants to answer that? What are the pros and cons?
Pros is like you can stay with your family. That is the biggest pros. That is the thing which you might have been missing. And the cons is that little bit of you have coming out of your comfort zone over there. So you are maybe used to life, the comfort of the things. That luxury will go off, and here you need to adjust, come out and readjust yourself to a new environment. I think that's the cons.
I think it's a very personal choice, right? So the example that I have probably told many of the folks that I have spoken to is that your life is like a balance, right? So there are, on one side of the balance, you have like life in US, and on the other side, you have life in India. Each one has its pros and cons. At some point in your life, when you probably moved to the US, you thought that life in US would be better. And at another point, and when you decide to move back, right? So you're actually weighing the life in India much higher. What has helped me is I actually wrote down all the pros and cons. So my process to kind of decide to move back to India took almost 4 years for me to make up my mind. So I had a running list of things that I would probably be beneficial to me in US versus things that would be beneficial in India. And at some point, the weightage for the list pros in India kind of overweighed the pros in US, and that's when I decided to finally make the move. So write it down, like visualizing it really helps.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a very personal thing for everyone, right? I mean, it's very subjective how you define success and, the goods and bads. Like for someone like, I wish Kunal was on this call. He dropped out earlier, but what I understood from what he mentioned was that he's actually working in the remotest parts of India, like in Madhya Pradesh, some rural, very, very remote part where he's actually getting his hands dirty, playing in the field, doing some farming and related stuff there. That makes him happy, and that's his thing, right? That's what drove him back to India. But at the same time, like someone like me, I'm sitting in my cozy office here, working remotely, and still, that's a joyful experience for me. So it's a very subjective thing for everyone. But if I were to answer you with a balance sheet, pros and cons kind of thing, then pros obviously is that you get rid of at least to a certain extent, you get rid of the anxiety factor, like what happens if your visa expires, what happens if your job is lost, or something unfortunate happens. You have that blade hanging over your head for most of us, right? Especially, like, maybe not for folks who are in the GC or citizenship phase of life, but for others perhaps more significantly. And that's a big tension. So you can get rid of that once you're close back with your folks and family in India. That's the biggest one, right? I mean, it's an emotional thing. It's something that you would take a decision by heart, not by brain. But on the other side, the cons is that you have to deal with the pollution, the little bit of whatever bureaucracy is there, red tapeism, or all these different things, judging family and friends and uncles and aunties that are very nosy and everything. So it's a very subjective thing, but these are some of the things I can think about. Does anyone else have an answer to it?
Yeah, I would like to add, actually, it also depends on which phase you currently are. I mean, like, if you're single, moving back to India would be a different experience. If you're just married, then moving back to India would be a different experience. In my case, I had like 2 kids, and then I moved back to India. For me, it was a whole different experience, actually. So it really depends on which phase you are. I mean, like, now my kids are playing with their grandparents, and the happiness that you see on their faces, that's like priceless. You're like, everything is worth it. We are still in the transition phase, and yeah, it's like it's completely worth it. We'll deal with all the stuff, so we can iron out the creases. And once you spend like 1.5 or 2 years, then you get comfortable. You know the way. Then, because I mean, most of us were born and raised in India. Then you can just juggle through the way and juggle through all the things that Mani just mentioned. So it will take time, but at the end, you will adjust to this very life, back in the time, and you will make something good because you've had good education, good experience. So yeah, and also it really depends on as Karthik said, just making a list of pros and cons and which one is higher. So
yeah,
just make a list and just weigh which one is higher. And
yeah.
As Mani said, it's a subjective question.
Yeah. Just adding to that, I mean, it's not everything is rosy when you come back to India. You feel peaceful and happy and all that. It's not like that. For certain folks, I know personally folks who actually moved back to US after the return a few years later, like 5 and 10 years later, once they had their siblings grown up, their kids grown up and everything. So things happen. It's life. So you just have to take it the way it is, and figure out how you define happiness and keeps you motivated. So I think it's a very subjective thing, but I think all of us would agree that being in your land with your folks, with the kind of people, eating the kind of food and celebrating with colors and lights and whatever you can think of is far more rewarding than sitting in cubicles in what looks like grays all around you, right? So yeah, I don't want to get too much into that. Might make me emotional, but I hope I made that point there. Anyways. Let's go to Guru, who's raising his hand. Guru, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mani, and all the panelists. I cannot really, express how much this is helpful. Like, you're spending a lot of your time answering all our questions. So I really appreciate this. I just want to ask a question about the school admission again. My kids are a little older. The one is going to 6th and the other one is going to 2nd grade. I'm still confused, like whether to choose IB syllabus or ICSE, CBSE. I think you already answered it's subjective, but I have one question. If we choose IB, do they necessarily have to come back here for college education, or is it recognized in India? Can they like write competitive entrance exams and all that? If we choose IB, that's my question.
That's an interesting one. So, did you have a answer on that?
Not exactly, because my kids are too young and yet not explored to that level.
Yeah, I'm not very sure if I can answer that as well. But my understanding is that you can, provided you clear all the exams and you have the credentials with you. I think you should be able to. and that's a choice that the kid would make at least at some point of time, like if they want to return back to the US or pursue education in the US or American colleges. They could definitely be doing that. I don't think there's a difference between CBSE education or IB education, or that would discriminate them or hold them off or give one a better chance than the other. I think it's pretty much similar when it comes to that part. Like, you know that if you're actually pursuing education in US, they would recalculate, or like 2 years of degree in India may not be considered as, you have to do additional studying or spend more time before you actually level up the eligibility criteria in the US in colleges. So apart from that, I'm not qualified to answer that, but I wonder if any of you would have a point to add there. That would be great. Anyone?
Yeah, hey Mani. Okay, so I had done some research actually like 7-8 years back. Okay, even prior to I had gone to US. Based on that, like the mark sheet, okay, or the certificate which is awarded by IB schools, okay, it is not recognized by Indian government. Now keep in mind, okay, more than half of the international school in India are actually CBSE. Okay, I was surprised. But if you actually go to a school, okay, which is actually an IB board school, okay, this is just for the people, those who are going to actually go back to US or Singapore or some country where these degrees are actually valued, and they're actually also training, okay, or teaching pattern is like very similar to US. This is more on the practical side. There's more emphasis on actually on social interaction, which we do not get in the schools. Okay, and also, yeah, they are definitely super expensive.
So you're saying that the degree you would get from an IB school is not recognized when you move out of India? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying that it will not be recognized inside India. Okay, so
Okay.
you will not be able to have the admission in engineering
Okay.
based on that. But if you wish to go outside India, I mean, definitely IB is a degree which is recognized everywhere, probably except India. So they can definitely do. But this is about like 7-8 years back. But yes, this is something very interesting. I can definitely spend some time and have an answer. Okay, but yes, keep in mind these schools are definitely very expensive.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it is expensive. So is it, has anybody done like from IB to CBSE transition, like start them with IB and then move them to CBSE slowly, like after a year or so? Is that?
Yeah, that's a question you can post in the forum, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because yeah, even this is news to me. I mean, this is very interesting. I think we have to just figure out what the reality is. Thanks for the question, but yeah, let's take. Okay. Thank you, Guru. Great. Ashi, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, great seminar, and this seems to me like a one-stop solution. This is great to hear from all of you. So I have two questions. The first question is regarding the tax filing. So I'm planning to go back to India in December. So is it, I mean, and I missed like the initial part of your webinar. So I was just wondering, like, how smooth is it to file the taxes from India?
Well, it's
taxes are pretty
smooth.
online, right? You can obviously like file it from India, sitting in India, like using H&R Block, TurboTax. You can do it online by yourself. Or if you want to get it done personally, then you may have to call and do something emailing. But as such, you can do it online.
Okay. Don't you need a permanent address in order to file the taxes?
Normally, you need to fill one address there. Not it doesn't say permanent. You need to fill one address, which, like in my case, I filled the Indian address while filing the US tax. So it just needs an address. That's all. It doesn't care about which address.
So it's not a problem, right? Okay, great. Okay, and another question, and this question is like I'm sure like everybody will have a different opinion on this. So how much salary is, I mean, I know it's tough, but is like good to earn in a tier one city in India? Again, like I know like it's gonna vary.
It's it's very subjective, I think, because it depends on like how many members do you have with you. Are you single, married, siblings, spouse and kids, how many, and all those different things, and of course your lifestyle, right? That's what defines as to how much you should be earning and how much you should be spending and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's I agree. I mean, I was thinking the same, like it's gonna be tough, but still, like just to live a middle class life, it's hard to make a decision, right? I mean, I'm planning to move to India, but still, like there's one thing which is going in my mind, the big thing, like how much salary is gonna be good.
Stan, I'm pretty sure you know about this as well. But when you say Bangalore, there is central Bangalore versus the outskirts of Bangalore, and things are largely different there. The cost of living could be very different in the outskirts of Bangalore versus living inside the city. Same is the case with Delhi, Mumbai, or Hyderabad, or any other city you can think of. And that's the beauty of India, right? I mean, you can't really, even though we have data and statistics, and the other day someone was sharing this on, I think, one of our WhatsApp groups, where we had a beautiful data about what is the average cost of living in every part of every major city in India. And I think Hyderabad was on the top, where it was more preferred and everything. So we do have these data, but even beyond all of this, I think it's a very subjective thing. It really depends on what you want to accomplish. How do you define happiness? Also, what would make you satisfied as a person, right?
Right.
I don't know if I can tell a number.
No, I mean, I was just trying to get comfort in that answer. That what I'm gonna get is okay. Like what experts are saying. So that's why I was, yeah.
Actually, if I may answer that question, this is Arvind. So we've been planning to move to India for the last couple of years. So I've been planning for different types of expenses. So for India, there's two major expenses, right? So one is where are you going to live? Do you have a own house? And then the second is education cost. And then the third is healthcare. So if you take a look at these three costs closely, and then you can do your planning, depends upon where you're going to stay, what your grocery bill is going to be. As Mani suggested, it is very, very subjective. I would say that the more and more you do your planning, so which city you're going to settle down, so what is the average school cost? So maybe you can talk to a few schools to understand that. If you're going to work somewhere, so if your medical bills are covered, so maybe you might have a very small healthcare coverage you need to take care of yourself, or if you're going to be starting something new as a startup, so you might have a higher healthcare expenses. So it is subjective. I think that is something I would say that you can definitely plan that out by opening up an Excel, just started listing out your monthly expenses. And it depends upon what lifestyle you want to achieve as well, right?
Right. Yeah,
Just to add, I think the one point that I missed and I was trying to get to was that you have a lot of different options in India. So if you want to go very, thin and, live in a very modest kind of way, you can. You have that option in India and be very happy about it as well. As opposed to if you want to go, the other way and live, however you want to define it, you can do that as well. So you have these different options, which is probably not as not much of an option, or not easily available, at least I would say, in the US, which is I'm assuming very standardized and everything. So that's the way I would approach it. Does that make sense?
Thank you. It does. Thank you. And one last question. I missed the initial part of this webinar. So are you gonna post the recording somewhere? Can I find the link?
Yes, we will be.
You will be. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Ashi. Arvindan, you wanted to ask a question as well?
Yes, Mani. Just wanted to say that thank you for this opportunity, and you've been doing a fantastic job coordinating with other members by creating lots of community groups as well as conducting the webinar. So this has been very, very helpful. So thank you for that. My question is very simple. So the topic here, most of this is related to US Indians or people who wants to move from US to India, but there are certain other regions, people also participating in this call. So I was wondering, do you guys have anything? I'm personally from Canada, and I'm planning to move from Canada to India as I'm a Canadian citizen. So I would like to kind of learn more things about lots of details about what you guys talked about for US. So is there any specific groups you guys have for Canada?
Yeah, we do. The Number of participants obviously is lesser from Canada, but we also have a group for Canada. So if you want to ping me offline, if you want to send me an email, I can definitely add you there. We also have the Middle East as well as Australia and UK also as part of the whole group. So it's, mostly I agree that it's from the US, but we also have representation from other parts of the world, including Canada. So yeah, if you want to ping me offline, I can definitely.
So is that your email address, what you posted in the chat or the Q&A?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'll do that. Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you. Thanks. Great. Okay, we're 2 hours into the webinar and we have a lot of questions coming in. I would love to take all of them, but unfortunately we can't. But I'll just try to quickly go through some of them. But while I choose which one to go for, I see a lot of hands raised, about 43 or more of them. Okay, Ramachandran Gunshekaran, are you ready to ask a question?
Yeah, I can. Hello.
Okay. Ramachandran, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you very much. We are planning to move to Bangalore by next month end. We don't know anyone there, so we are trying to see how we can stay while we are trying to find a home.
Don't worry. Bangalore,
Yes.
all kinds of activities happening there, right from which schools to pick to which area of Bangalore to choose to live in.
The school part, I think I kind of did online research, but we are, especially during pandemic, we wanted to stay in a place for a couple of months temporarily, and then while we try to find the right place. So I wanted to know what kind of options. We are certainly not looking for hotels. Probably we wanted to
I understand.
place where we can stay.
We have a lot of volunteers from Bangalore who would be happy to help you and even host you, I'm assuming. So yeah, please feel free to ping me offline. I'm so excited about Bangalore because that's one place we're seeing a lot of activity, a lot of returnees, a lot of supporters, and a lot of movement there. Also with Hyderabad. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that I can help you there. So please ping me offline. I can help you.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Ramachandra. Mr. Vadiraj, are you available?
Hi there. How are you? Thank you for doing this, and thank you for the opportunity. So my question is a bit more specific. I live in San Francisco, and I worked here in product management for many years. So my question is a bit specific around what does the product management job market look like in India, and what are some of the sweet spots? I'm essentially from Mumbai, so I essentially want to land in Mumbai, but I wanted to see what should my job search net look like. What city should I aim for, and what does the market look like in general for somebody who's coming back as a product manager looking for those opportunities in India?
Got it. I'm not an expert in HR, but my understanding, I work with a lot of startups. I help them with the early stage and everything. So this is something that's coming from my personal experience. Huge. The opportunity is huge in India right now. This is probably the best time you can think of. I personally have seen a lot of opportunities show up in the last couple of months, especially after the pandemic has hit. A lot more companies are willing to take the right kind of talent working remotely even, but then the opportunity is there, especially if you are in the online space or the tech space. There's a lot of opportunities available, and it's only growing as we speak. It is growing. So the approach, I would say, the right way would be networking. A lot of networking. I know people make this mistake of going into job portals and adding your profile and applying for jobs in India. The problem there is you would end up in the rabbit hole basically along with everyone else from India, and recruiters are not trained to treat NRIs or people who are applying from abroad differently. They don't know what to do. Even if they spot you, they don't know what to do. They would probably be treating you just like someone from India. And even some folks, I've seen this personally, is that they don't really know how to manage your expectations because they think that you come with a lot of the same salary expectations that you were enjoying in the US or anywhere else. So they are sometimes even reluctant to entertain having conversations with NRI candidates. So don't go that route. What I would recommend is try to network as much as possible, specifically with recruiters and headhunters. and also HR folks who are working within companies. Like last webinar, we had someone from Uber who was actually in Amsterdam, but she's the head of recruitment in India and related geographies. So she had a lot of insights to share. And one of the things she mentioned is that they're always open to bring talent to India. It could be from US, UK, Middle East, wherever. Like last week, there was one news that came out that there were about 250 opportunities that just opened up in the last couple of months within Uber in Hyderabad alone. So, that's the kind of scale we are talking about, and there are definitely opportunities, but you need to make yourself heard and seen. That is really important. And to do that, the best way to do is perhaps if you want to even upgrade your professional account on LinkedIn and get knocking on doors and talk to people, have that conversation going on. If you are the right kind of talent that matches with an opportunity, you would definitely be making a difference. There are, I can't think of names, but there are folks who actually made that change and made that move through this kind of networking and conversations in the last couple of months. Just ping me offline. I can maybe hook you up with them. I think they're on the Facebook forums as well. And there was someone who actually explained his whole experience, how he did it, and what were some of the even bad and good experiences mixed in. So that would be a good learning experience for you. That's
my. Yeah. I have a follow-up question, and I want to keep it short. So essentially, what do you think are the best avenues for doing that networking? Essentially, I have not lived in India for 11 years. I don't have the kind of network essentially that I have in US now. But 11 years back, I pretty much did the same exercise in US, and there are many more avenues to do that kind of networking. There is meetups, there are forums where you can go and talk to people. You have your college that you could use, etc. So what are some of those avenues look like in India? Are they the same? Are they different? And what are your recommendations? Is LinkedIn the best way to network for someone who's sitting in US and trying to get someone in India? What are your recommendations there?
Yes, LinkedIn is obviously on top of the list because the kind of opportunities there are huge, and everyone else you can think of from that field is probably there. But there's also AngelList, which is more inclined towards startups. So you would find a lot of folks there, a little bit more like a boutique agency kind of an experience you can expect over there. There's also a lot of recruiters, like individual recruiters. There's a few in our group as well. We have a directory on, I can share the URL later, on Back to India, where we have listed out some of the individual recruiters who are more than willing to help you figure out how to go ahead and find the right job for you. Not trying to say that it's easy as just pinging them in in the next few days or months getting it. It takes a lot of time, so I always advise for you to people who are moving in to at least have a 6 months buffer so that you have that kind of time to figure out what works for you. But these are the 3 different options that I can think of right on top of my head. But I'm sure there are other venues as well. But yes, LinkedIn, AngelList, and the individual recruiters. One thing that I've seen that happened very recently is a lot of webinars and a lot of online events happening because most of these were happening as offline events, and now everything has gone online, and it's a good opportunity for you because now you can join from US or wherever you are. You don't have to be physically available in India, so you could perhaps make use of those as well. So those are the things I can think of as venues. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Raj. Cool. Win, did you have a question?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hey, thanks for giving me this opportunity. So I have a couple of questions. So the first one is, I want to know if anyone that has already moved or aspiring to move, are they trying to pursue a job and as well as a business or a entrepreneur or startup as a side hustle? So if anyone has already done that, how do they manage both of these? I want to know their experience.
Waiting. Sorry, I'm rushing through, but yes, there are a lot of people who actually moved and have done a lot of things on their own. I mean, I am probably one good example. When I moved back in 2017, I started my own startup. I wouldn't say it's a tech startup, so to speak. I work with a lot of early stage startups, help with their growth, marketing, and that kind of stuff. I also have like a publishing on my own, and I have my presence in Bangalore, but I'm working remotely from wherever I can. But like Sudhir, who was on the panelist when we started the webinar, he hopped off at 10 o'clock. He's also a good example. He started his venture in Hyderabad, and it's doing good. It's called Shortlist, which is a HR SaaS platform. There's also one of the gentlemen, Udit Patidar. I think we've done an interview with him, which is available on our YouTube channel, where he talks about his journey, how he went about moving back and starting his journey in India, in Hyderabad. He's doing a waste management company. He's also huddled up with some of his friends who moved back again from the US a little ahead of him, and he basically joined them a couple of years. But that's also a good learning experience as to how he went through and set it up. There was also one other gentleman called Abhishek. He's also from, I think, Bangalore. He set up a shop, like an actual retail food and F&B kind of stuff. And he had like a very interesting business model that he's actually scaling it. He's got a few funding and everything, and he's doing very well. I can hook you up with him as well. But all of these folks are on our entrepreneurship group. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a WhatsApp group where all of us huddle together and talk on hustle stuff. So if you want to be a part of that, feel free to email me, and I can invite you there.
Sure, I'll send you an email.
Awesome.
Hey, Mani, sorry to say, but I have to drop off. So okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mani. See you.
We have.
Bye.
Thanks, Suvit. You had some great answers. Appreciate it. Great. We have four more in line. So, Mr. Janvi, I believe. Janvi Akineni.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Karthik. Thank you for this opportunity. I actually had a very specific question. Our daughter has a lot of food allergies, and I've been on and off in India seeking treatment from homeopathic doctors. So I just had, I was just wondering, because here in the US, we are planning to move in January, to be precise. And then in the US, it's kind of easy to find foods that she can easily eat. And I did my research and I found a lot of foods on Amazon India too. I just wanted to ask if you had like a specific group for kids who had like food allergies and were traveling and are settling in India, and if there are any like pointers from moms or dads in this group.
We don't have a group, Janvi, but I know at least 3 or 4 folks who have been in the same situation and have actually overcome it and made their move. So I would strongly suggest if you can email me, I can hook you up with them. Very specific to what you are asking, basically dealing with food allergies, like peanut butter and that kind of certain food items. The good thing is that my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, is that they've managed to come over it once they move back to India, and there are different things they attribute it to and different ways they actually did it, as in like treatment and other procedures. I wouldn't want to comment on it because it's a very sensitive thing, but I can definitely help you in connecting with them. I can, like I mentioned, 3 or 4 people who've been in this situation. So feel free to email me, and I can definitely put you in touch with them.
All right, thank you, Karthik.
Thanks, Andrew. Mallikarjun, do you want to go ahead? Okay, Suryanarayan.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the session. So a couple of questions. One is, if let's say a person doesn't have wife or kids and is kind of flexible to move any time of the year. So generally, what is the kind of a better time of the year to move? So like the beginning or before March or mid or late in the year? So that's one question. The second question is, if I want to switch careers while staying in India, so how receptive is, let's say I'm in tech, so hardware, software, or even non-tech. So how friendly is a job switching scenario, or if I want to switch to a different field, not in the same industry? Yeah.
Got it. Well, thanks. On the time frame, Surya, I believe, I can't think of, it really depends on what you are trying to accomplish. So like, for example, if job is your biggest puzzle that you need to crack in terms of your priority list, right? Then you might want to give at least 6 months respective of when you're moving, because we've seen this time and again that a lot of people think about job maybe like a month or 2 months or 3 months ahead of the move, and that's not enough for you to actually find a job, because like I mentioned, recruiters in India, they have this whole, so to speak, stigma like dealing with NRIs, right? Because they think that NRIs come untitled and there's a lot of expectations, and they struggle to manage their expectations. So you need that time, at least 6 months ahead, to figure out what is a good fit for you. But if job is not your issue, if you have other things, then it totally depends on what it is. Like, for example, I don't know, I can't really think of other things. Maybe if you can help me figure out, I can tell you why. But otherwise,
generally it's for taxation or some financial issues. If you want to save maximum money, I mean, I know it's too personal question, but yeah, any general tips or pointers?
I would let a personal finance expert answer that. I know that there was this question that came up last time, and the kind of answer that I got from the expert we had on board was that it really depends on a situation. Like, what have you done in the past? Are your papers clear? Are you have all your documents with you, or do you want to make sure that you have enough time to gather all of that before moving in? So that's where it was revolving around. But I would rather let him answer that. If you want to email me, I can connect you with Prateek and answer you. But yeah, that's. Thanks, Surya. Sorry, I couldn't help you there, but. Mallikarjun, are you ready? If you want to go ahead. Okay. Anirudh?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Mallikarjun, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Hi, first of all, thanks, Mani. Thanks for organizing this. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing with the Back to India. So I had a couple of questions. First one is regarding personal finance. I'm curious what folks think about what percentage of your portfolio should be in abroad versus in India. That was my first question. And for the second one, like how practical is it to actually buy a house and stay in one? I know folks have told that it's hard to buy a house while you're in abroad, and then you go to India, stay there for 6 months, know the area better, and then buy a house. But then the job keeps changing. Then there'll be kids schooling. Like, how do we optimize for, like, is it even practical to buy a house? I sometimes feel like renting is like more flexible in a way. I'm curious what folks think about it.
Yeah, I mean that's a often repeated question. I think the best way is to, if you're unsure about what you're getting into, you don't want to make a decision when you're away from India, because a lot of things are very deceptive in India when it comes to real estate. So it's always good to either come here and have a look at things and understand things, and once you have control over things, make a decision, or else you can have like a power of attorney like given to someone who's very close to you, have a take a look on your behalf and take a decision, or help you take a decision. But it's even better if you are physically present, because there's a lot of scams and things like that. Like, things are not really how it looks on paper or on brochures when you actually come here. And many times there are a lot of promises given, and deadlines missed, and on like if you're getting an apartment and things like that. So there are a lot of misfires happening in India. So it's better if you can come down and actually get hold of things before making the decision. So until that time, maybe if you want to rent out, there are a lot of options. There is this one website called nobroker.in, which lets rent out or get a rented house without any broker or middleman. So you can avoid all the additional fees and all that stuff. So you can use that. But we also have these city groups like WhatsApp groups for Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, etc., where there are a lot of folks who can help you find localities and places to rent out places. So you can use that as well. But it's always best to come down and make a decision rather than sit there, and especially when you don't know what's happening, or if you have been out of the country for a while and don't have that touch. So that's the answer to that, right? Okay.
Thanks, Mani.
Anirudh, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, thanks for this webinar. This is definitely helpful. So I have a very specific question related to the job. So I currently have an option of doing an internal transfer to an Indian location. However, at the same time, I'm looking forward to targeting some of the tier 1 companies in India, like Google or Amazon. So my question is, does it make sense to try to look for those jobs from being in the US, or take an internal transfer and then try to move to those companies?
Yeah, if you have the option to get an internal transfer, that will be the most easiest option. met with a lot of, not a lot, but a few folks who have done that, and they say that it's always a good option because you have the support of the company. Like there was this one couple that we interviewed, it's available on our YouTube channel. They moved to Indore, and they were, I think they were working with Apple, and they moved to Hyderabad, but their hometown was in Indore, and they did that in a very seamless way. They were available to, or they were allowed to work from Indore remotely for a while before they actually settled in. Their moving expense and other things were taken care of by the company. So you would get a lot of support that way, as opposed to if you're trying to do things on your own, you'd have to grapple with a lot of these moving things during that move. So internal transfers are always a great option, but not everyone is fortunate. But if you can use it, please go for it. But otherwise, to answer the first part of the question, a lot of the big guys out there take care of, references are what really works, especially if you're an NRI who wants to get into middle or top senior level, those kind of posts. References really work hard. So if you don't want to waste your time going to these whole Job portals thing and apply and wait for response and everything, try to, like I mentioned earlier, break into these HR folks, try to network with them, connect with them. You'll be surprised, some of them, if you just message them on LinkedIn, they're willing to talk and have a conversation. I was talking to this lady from Amsterdam on the other webinar. She's actually taking care of the Uber's hiring process in India as well. And she was mentioning she is actually waiting for folks to actually start a conversation, or tell her that they're willing to come back to India, because most of the times we assume that that's not the right way to do it, and you want to make it very formal and send them an application letter and all that stuff, and which always you can do. But if you can just on top of that layer in with a manual nudge in a very human kind of an approach, of course things are not going to happen in the first or second week, but you can get that conversation going on, and provided if you are the right kind of person that fits their profile, they're always willing to take you in. And you'll be surprised with the kind of response you would get. So we have a website called returntoindiajobs.com where you can put in your resume and you can apply there. And we have these exposed some of these profiles to the open profiles, and if there is a match, obviously you'll get a call or intimation from the whoever is concerned. So that's also one option you can explore. But to answer your question, yes, that's the right approach to it. I mean, there's no black and white way to do it. You just have to wriggle through it and figure out what works for you. But these are some things that actually work for some of the successful returnees so far from the community that I've seen. So that's the.
Thank you. Can you also provide me the contact of that Uber recruiter? Because I did not attend the previous webinar.
No worries. You can email me at hi@manikarthik.com. I'll definitely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Who wants to go? Okay, we have a few people in line. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered, touched upon at least most of the topics. Obviously, it's not possible to deep dive to all of these, but the whole intention behind the webinar was to kind of touch upon and give you sort of prepare a checklist for those who wants to or is aspiring to move back. Like I mentioned, we are trying to bringing the community and make the reverse brain drain process a reality. So let us know if there is anything that you need or you want to address or you have questions on. We do have WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, city-based groups where we can give you a lot of local support, as well as specialized folks. Even we have a group for doctors and based on professions. So if you want to make use of that, just let me know. Email me at hi@manikarthik.com and I can put you in the right bucket wherever you fit. But this whole exercise of Back to India is a community-driven project, and me along with who are our panelists here today and others are trying to help you guys make that move and make it happen. So I hope I have answered as many questions as possible, but I know that there are still some unanswered ones in the Q&A box. So my apologies to all of those. I wish I had the time. We're almost 2.5 hours into the podcast, into the webinar, and we have to wind it up. But if anyone wants to come online and say something, you have about 5 minutes ahead. But otherwise, we should be wrapping it up. And this recording will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer it later, that's fine as well. But for every other question, please email me at hi@manikarthik.com. We have all the groups and directory. We have the returntoindiajobs.com website where you can register if you're a job seeker. And we have a community of all different, like we have personal finance experts, tax experts, doctors, entrepreneurs, even recruiters who can help you with your processes. So, one thing we are trying to do is we're not trying to make it a very dry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 checklist kind of a thing, because everybody has their own limitations and their own customizations required. So, which is why we want to keep it organized and very much an organic kind of a thing. So, feel free to use it, but otherwise, just email me if you have any questions. But I think that should be it. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, I have one question though.
Okay, so
so there are a lot of things which I haven't even thought of, which came up in the session that was useful to me. So if you have a directory of what groups you have, or what, I don't know, generally what all questions people may have.
Yeah.
Just brainstorming thing.
Sure. Yeah, we don't put the directory openly because of spam issues. Like we tried that once, and the way WhatsApp works, anyone can join in, and it's very difficult to remove people once they join. And if they post something nasty, it stays there for everyone to see. So we took
not
that.
Open invite link, but at least you have profession-based groups versus city-based groups. Like I didn't even know such things existed in like that you offered.
Yeah, the one other, we have some issues as well. Like, for example, some of these are full. Like we have the main group split into 4 right now, because there's only 285 or something like that members possible in one group. So we have 4 groups for the main. We have, we have split up the groups into different ones. So best thing would be to just email me. But usually the invites go out for the main group on the email when you registered on backtoindia.com. But for all the other stuff, we put it on a very customized kind of like whoever asks kind of a way, because the Telegram group is, however, open to everyone. And if you want to raise your questions there, and if there is a requirement for you to be part of the Bangalore group and the other specialized group, I make sure that me and the moderators there make sure that you are passed on there. So yeah, the Telegram group is open for everyone. And there also we have some technical glitches. I mean, it's not our issue, it's Telegram's issue, where the t.me short link is not available for everyone to click through, but it is there, live and kicking, a lot of discussions, amazing answers and experiences being shared there. So but yeah, just email me at hi@manikarthik.com if you have any questions at all. Make use of it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you, Mani. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.